Hey guys, Nike here. Today we're going to be talking about the Hammer Dagger Mace Defense Spellbreaker build. I was planning to do this build guide right after Janthier Wilds, but a couple things stopped me. First, the Spear Spellbreaker was just better DPS, and second, the balance patch preview showed that this build was going to be getting a buff, so I felt it was prudent to wait until after they buffed it to make the video, especially since the buff would change the rotation. As luck would have it, Warrior Spear got a nerf in the very same balance patch, so this build became a lot more relevant because it's probably the best Spellbreaker build out there now. The long story short is this build does great damage, has a ton of CC baked into its kit, and is super tanky since it has a lot of healing and self-application of stability. This is not the absolute highest DPS build in the game right now, but it is comparable to Berserker after the nerf to Berserker, and because of the built-in defense that this build has, I would say it's probably one of the best builds out there to play in a pug. So if that's the sort of build that interests you, let's get into it. Alright, so for gear, our gear is going to be full Berserker with Scholar Runes, and our relic is going to be Relic of the Claw. Now this build has no trouble maintaining Relic of the Claw with 100% uptime, so that makes it super easy to recommend in all scenarios over Thief Relic. So definitely unlock Relic of the Claw as quickly as you can if you haven't already. Our weapon sets are going to be Dagger, Mace, and Hammer. And on our Dagger set, we're going to use Sigil of Force and Sigil of Air. And on our Hammer, we're going to use Sigil of Force and Sigil of Hydromancy. For infusions, every slot will be power infusions. And for our food, cilantro, lime, sous vide steaks, and Writs of Masterful Strength. Now, obviously, Writs of Masterful Strength are not cheap, and if you do not feel like this is a good value for you, then no problem using Superior Sharpening Stones instead. Alright guys, so that's it for the gear. Let's talk about traits. Alright, so for traits, we are going to want to take Strength, Defense, and Spellbreaker. In Strength, we want Peak Performance, Great Fortitude, and Berserker's Power. This has been how it's been in pretty much every warrior power build for years, and for the time being, it's not going to change. In defense, we're going to take Cull the Weak, Merciless Hammer, and Stalwart Strength. So one thing to note about this is that our minor trait here, Adrenal Health, is going to give us a 400 heal per second heal, which is pretty nice. And that we're going to get from Stalwart Strength not just a 10% DPS increase, but we're also going to have a pretty serious amount of stability uptime, which is really quite good. In Spellbreaker, we are going to take Pure Strike, Sun and Moon Style, and Magebane Tether, as we do in all power DPS Spellbreaker builds. Now for our utility skills, we are going to use Mending, Bull's Charge, Signet of Fury, Signet of Might, and Winds of Disenchantment. Now, if you want to swap Winds of Disenchantment for Battle Standard, if you're in a group where, you know, the quick res, the hard res might be helpful, then by all means do that, especially if you're in a sort of fight where Winds of Disenchantment isn't going to be very good value. However, if you want to do that, if you do make that swap to Battle Standard, you do need to change your heal to the limit, because to the limit will allow you to start the fight with enough adrenaline to do the opening part of the rotation that we're going to talk about later. But if you are going to use Winds of Disenchantment as part of your opening rotation, then you don't necessarily need to the limit, and you can use Mending. In my personal opinion, Mending is a better heal skill for when you actually have to heal yourself. Also, Defiant Stance is totally viable, and there's actually times where I would recommend taking Defiant Stance. Gorseval is a great example of a place where Defiant Stance is really powerful, because it lets you just, especially in a pug where your healers might be a bit suspect, it lets you, during the tantrum when you normally take a lot of incoming damage, it lets you just keep DPSing and ignore all that incoming damage. So you do have some versatility there on your heal skills. So how does this build actually play? Well, this build has a really nice looping rotation that is quite easy to learn. If you are the sort of player who's put off by how fast-paced that Berserker feels and you're really struggling to hit those big DPS numbers on Berserker because it's simply too fast-paced for you, give this one a try, as it's a bit slower and more deliberate in key presses, and it loops just as smoothly as the Berserker build, in that it's endlessly repeatable. As always, I'm going to do a slow-mo breakdown, skill by skill, of the rotation, and then play the rotation again at normal speeds. If you have any questions about how or why something is as it is in the rotation, feel free to ask in the comments below. I am releasing this video before Snowcrows updates their website, so there is a chance that their rotation will be slightly different and perhaps a bit more optimized once they update their website, but it shouldn't vary tremendously, and I would encourage you to check out their updated rotation when it comes out, just to see if there are any differences or things that can be improved. Alright guys, so the opener for this is pretty fun, and it's not as frenetic as some other openers. We are going to start with Winds of Disenchantment. You would want to do this as you're running into the fight towards the boss, and then we're going to use Bull's Charge through the winds. And this is going to give us enough adrenaline to immediately use our F1 skill. And then so we F1, then we're going to Mace 4, Mace 5, Mace 4 again, and then Dagger 3, swap to Hammer, Hammer 2, use our Hammer F1, Hammer 4, then Hammer 3. Then we're going to do 2 auto attack chains, and it really does help to do the full 2 chains because the third auto attack does hit considerably harder. After the second chain, we're going to do Hammer 2, Hammer 5, and then Hammer 2 again. And then immediately after that, we are going to Hammer Burst, and then Hammer 3. After Hammer 3, we swap Dagger 3, Mace 4, and then Burst. And then we're going to do 1 complete Dagger auto chain, and then Mace 5. Then another complete Dagger auto chain, Mace 4. 2 more Dagger auto chains. And then after these 2 Dagger auto chains, we're going to Bull's Charge again. Then do 1 Dagger auto chain, Dagger Burst, and then Dagger 3. And then we swap back to Hammer and repeat the same Hammer loop. So that is the entire rotation. Once you can do the opening and then those 2 loops, it just repeats endlessly, as you can see. So again, Hammer 4, Hammer 3. We're going to do 2 Hammer auto chains. And then after the Hammer auto chains, it'll be Hammer 2, Hammer 5, Hammer 2. Then Hammer Burst and Hammer 3. Swap to Dagger, Dagger 3, Mace 4, Burst, auto attack chain, and then after the auto attack chain, again, Mace 5, another auto attack chain, then Mace 4, 2 auto chains, and then after the 2 auto chains, we're going to Bull's Charge and then do another auto chain. And then after this auto chain, we will use our burst, dagger 3, and we're back to the hammer loop. So that's it. That's the whole thing. If you can do that, you've got the rotation down. So yeah, anyway guys, that's the slow-mo breakdown of the rotation. As you can see, not very hard. It should not take a ton of practice to get this. So with that said, I'm going to play the rotation again at full speed so you can see it in action. Alright guys, so that's it for me. This balance patch really did hit warrior players kind of hard. Spear was very powerful for Berserker especially, and it definitely did deserve a nerf. But there are several other professions that have DPS builds that were just as powerful as Spear Berserker, like, Renegade or Tempest. And those builds all dodged the nerf, but it was Spear Berserker that got hit really hard. You know, it's a bit unfair, and it's a bit unfortunate to be the one nail that sticks up to get hammered down while there's other nails sticking up. But you know, let's make some lemons out of lemonade. This build did get buffed. It's plenty fun, and hopefully it scratches the itch for you guys and you get some fun out of playing it. So anyway, that's it for me. I really do hope you dig this build. Please give it a try. Let me know how you like it in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Peace.